Hello everyone, and welcome back to Shadow Man Stories. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the stories. My name is Thomas Jefferson Washington, and I can taste blood in the air tonight. It's Halloween 1973, 6:15 in the evening, and I'm standing in Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. The trees are tall and dark around me, and something feels very wrong. I came here because I had to. Something called me here like a voice in my head that wouldn't go away. The creek next to me should be running clear water, but it looks red. Not from autumn leaves, from something else, something old and angry. I know this place. My great-great-grandfather died here during the Civil War back in 1863, 110 years ago. But tonight, it feels like it happened yesterday. I'm 45 years old, and I've never felt anything like this before. Every step I take on this ground makes my bones hurt, not regular hurt, a deep, sad hurt that goes all the way down to my soul. Like my body remembers things that happened before I was even born. The forest is too quiet, no birds singing, no insects buzzing, even the wind has stopped. All the animals have run away from something, and I think I know what that something is. It's the same thing that's been following my family for 6 generations. The light coming through the trees is golden, but the shadows it makes look like terrible things. I see shapes that look like ropes hanging from branches, shapes that look like burning crosses, things that shouldn't be there, but I can see them anyway. My body is getting cold, but not from the October air. The cold comes from inside, matching the beat of my heart. Every time my heart beats, the air gets a little colder. It's like the ground under my feet knows I'm here, like it's been waiting. For me, there's a hawk flying in circles above me, round and round, the same pattern over and over, but something's wrong with it. Its wings don't move right, its eyes don't blink. I think it's been dead for hours, but something is making it fly anyway, something that wants to watch me. Thunder rolls across the sky, but there are no clouds. The sound is deep and slow, like old cannons firing far away. It makes the same rhythm over and over, boom, 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 like the heartbeat of something huge and angry that's been sleeping underground for a long time. I know about the burial mounds here, Native American graves that were torn up when soldiers dug trenches during the war. The dead never got to rest proper. Their pain is still here, mixed with the pain of everyone else who died on this ground. And that pain calls to things, hungry things. My back is tingling, like someone's watching me. But it's not just someone. It's everyone. All the ghosts of my family, all the way back to the beginning. They're trying to tell me something. They're trying to warn me about what killed my boy Marcus. Marcus died in Vietnam last year. My son. My only son. 19 years old, just like every Washington man before him. Just like my daddy. Just like his daddy. Just like all of them, going back 6 generations. We don't live long, we Washington men. And we always die young, always die fighting, and we always call for our fathers when we go. But tonight, I'm going to find out why. Tonight, I'm going to face whatever has been hunting my family since the day we first set foot in America. The blood in the air is getting stronger, and something in the darkness ahead is waiting for me. I can feel them all inside me. Every Washington man who came before. Their pain sits in my bones like old metal, heavy and cold and rusted with blood. My joints ache in places where my great-grandfather wore chains. My back burns where my great-great-grandfather felt the whip. When I sleep, I dream in words I never learned, old slave talk from times I never lived. But somehow, I know what it all means. The purple heart in my pocket is burning hot against my chest. Marcus's purple heart. They gave it to me after he died. But the metal feels wrong. It feels familiar, like it came from this very ground, dug up from the same mines where my people worked and died as slaves. My wife Dolores can't look at me anymore. Not since Marcus died. She says when she looks at me, she sees all of them, all the Washington men who died too young. She sees my daddy, who died at 19 in World War II. She sees his daddy, who died at 19 in World War I. She sees them all standing behind me like ghosts. I found the old family Bible last week in Mama's attic. The pages are yellow and smell like dust and tears. But what scared me most were the names. All the Washington men, written in black ink. But some names are crossed out in something that looks like dried blood. Next to each crossed out name, someone wrote the same thing. Tried to break it, failed. My granddaddy's name is crossed out in blood. My daddy's name too. And there, at the bottom of the page, someone had already written Marcus's name. Before he even died, like they knew it was going to happen. The Bible goes back 6 generations. Every single generation, the same story. A Washington man dies at 19 in a war. Always 19, always in a war. Always calling for his daddy when the end comes. But it's not just bad luck. It's not just chance. There's something else. Something that feeds on us. Something that needs us to keep dying, to keep the pain going. I can feel it in my blood. The strength of all those men who survived the worst things people can do to each other. Men who were beaten and broken but never gave up. Men who loved their families so much they'd die for them. That strength runs in my veins like fire. But that same strength is what calls to the thing that hunts us. It can smell our pain from miles away. It knows our blood. It knows our names. The taste in my mouth is getting stronger. Iron and salt. Like old chains and dried tears. It's the taste of every chain that ever held a Washington man. Every whip that ever cut Washington's skin. Every tear that ever fell from Washington eyes. This forest knows us. This ground drank our blood before, and it's thirsty for more. Every tree, every rock, every handful of dirt has soaked up our pain for over 100 years. Tonight, I understand why I'm here. Why something called me to this place on this night. It's not just about Marcus. It's about all of them. Every Washington man who died young. Every Washington woman who cried over a grave. Every Washington child who grew up without a daddy. The curse has to end somewhere. It has to end with someone. And maybe that someone is me. The forest has gone completely dead now. Not just quiet, dead. Like someone sucked all the life out of it and left behind empty space. Even my footsteps sound wrong. Too loud, too sharp. Like the trees are listening to every step I take. I've been walking for 20 minutes, but I keep ending up in the same place. The same bent oak tree. The same pile of rocks. The same creek that runs red. It's like the forest is playing tricks on me, making me walk in circles when I think I'm going straight. The deer are all gone. I saw their tracks leading away from here, but not normal tracks. These tracks were deep, like the deer were running as fast as they could, like they were running from something that scared them more than any hunter ever. I can hear scratching sounds in the trees above me. Slow scratching like fingernails on bark, but when I look up I don't see anything. Just empty branches moving in wind that I can't feel. The scratching keeps going. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Like someone trying to claw their way out of something. My CB radio in the truck has been acting strange all day. Instead of normal chatter, it's been playing old songs. Slave songs, spirituals. But they're playing backwards. And the voices sound like they're underwater. Sometimes I think I hear my own name mixed in with the singing. The smell is getting worse too. It started as just wet earth and autumn leaves. Now it smells like wet dog mixed with old pennies. That's what blood smells like when it's been sitting too long. Old pennies and metal. I found something that made my stomach turn. Animal bones arranged in a circle around a tree. Not just any animals, farm animals, a cow's skull, pig bones, chicken feathers scattered in patterns that look almost like words, almost like someone was trying to write something with dead animals. The fog is rolling in now, even though the weather report said it would be clear all night. This fog is different. It's too thick, too white, and when it passes over me, I swear I can hear whispers. names being called out in voices I almost recognize. Old names, slave names, names of people who died in this forest a long time ago. My hands are shaking, but not from cold. They're shaking because I can feel something watching me, something big, something that's been waiting for me to come here. I can feel its eyes on my back, like hot spots on my skin. The temperature is dropping fast. My breath is coming out in white puffs now, and I can see frost forming on the leaves around me. But it's not natural frost. It's forming in patterns, shapes that look like chains, shapes that look like hands reaching out. I keep thinking I see movement in the corner of my eye. Shadows that move when shadows shouldn't move. Trees that seem to lean toward me when I'm not looking directly at them. The dead hawk is still circling overhead, but now it's flying lower, close enough that I can see its empty eye sockets. There are footprints in the mud now, big ones, but they're not quite right. They look like dog prints, but with thumbs, like something that walks on four legs, but has human hands for feet. The prints are heading in the same direction I am, like whatever made them is following the same path. My heart is beating so hard I can hear it in my ears. Each beat sounds like those old cannons from the Civil War. Boom, boom, boom. And with each beat, the fog gets thicker. The whispers get louder. The scratching in the trees gets more desperate. I know what's happening now. This place isn't just haunted. It's hungry. It's been feeding on pain and death for so long that it's alive now. The whole forest is like one big mouth, and I'm walking right into it, but I can't turn back. Something won't let me. Every time I try to head toward my truck, my feet carry me deeper into the woods instead, like I'm being pulled by invisible strings. The fog is so thick now, I can barely see 10 feet ahead, but I can see something moving in it. Something big and dark that's been waiting for me. I see the eyes first, yellow eyes glowing in the fog like two small suns. They're watching me from behind a tree about 30 feet away. Big eyes, too big for any normal animal. Then I see the rest of it. It's huge, bigger than any dog or wolf I've ever seen. Black, fur that seems to move on its own, like it's made of shadow instead of hair. Muscles under the skin that ripple when it breathes. But the worst part is how it looks at me, like it knows me, like it's been waiting for me my whole life. It steps out from behind the tree, and I can see it clearly now. It walks like a big cat, but its paws are wrong. They have fingers. Human. Fingers with long, sharp nails. And when it opens its mouth, I see teeth that are too white and too sharp. "Hello, Thomas," it says. My blood turns to ice. It talks. And it sounds just like Marcus. Just like my boy who died in Vietnam. The same voice, the same way of saying my name that Marcus used when he was little and needed something. "You've been waiting a long time to meet me," it says in Marcus's voice. "Just like your daddy did. Just like his daddy did. Just like all of them." I try to back away, but my feet won't move. It's like they're stuck to the ground. The thing starts to change. Its black fur becomes gray hair. Its yellow eyes turn blue. Its face becomes human. It becomes a white man in an old uniform. Confederate uniform. The kind of uniform worn by men who owned slaves. "I was there when your great-great-grandfather died," it says, but now the voice is different. Older, meaner. "I was there when they all died. I've been feeding on Washington blood for 6 generations. Then it changes again. Now it looks like a police officer from the 1920s, then a soldier from World War I, then a Klan member with a white hood. Each, in time it changes. It gets a little bigger, a little scarier. "Do you know how your boy really died, Thomas?" it asks, back in Marcus's voice now. "It wasn't the enemy that killed him. It was his own commanding officer, a white man who didn't like having black soldiers under his command. He sent Marcus on a mission he knew was suicide." My hands are shaking. I reach for the gun in my belt, but I already know it won't help. You can't kill something like this with bullets. "Marcus called for you when he died," the thing says, smiling with Marcus's face. "Just like they all do. He said, "Daddy, help me 3 times before the end." "But you weren't there, were you, Thomas? You were safe at home while your boy died alone." The guilt hits me like a punch to the stomach. All the guilt I've been carrying since Marcus died. All the times I wondered if I could have saved him somehow. All the nights I stayed awake, thinking about how I failed him. The creature feeds on it. I can see it getting stronger as the guilt pours out of me. Its muscles get bigger, its teeth get sharper, its eyes get brighter. "That's it," it whispers. "Give it all to me. Give me all that shame, all that pain, all that guilt about being alive when your boy is dead." I try to fight back, but the guilt is too strong. It's like drowning in it. Every mistake I ever made. As a father, every time I wasn't there when Marcus needed me, every harsh word I ever said to him, the thing grows larger with each wave of guilt. Soon it's twice the size it was before. Its eyes are like car headlights now, and its teeth are like kitchen knives. "Your family has been feeding me for over a century," it says in a voice like thunder. "Your pain is delicious. Your shame is like wine to me. And now it's time for the feast to continue." It crouches down, getting ready to spring, getting ready to finish what it started 6 generations ago. The voices of my ancestors get louder. Not scary voices, strong voices. Voices that lived through hell and came out the other side. Voices that never gave up, no matter how bad things got. "Stand up, boy," I hear my great-great-grandfather say. "You're a Washington. We don't bow down to nothing." The creature is getting ready to jump at me, but something changes inside me. The guilt starts to fade. Not because I stopped caring about Marcus. I'll always miss my boy. But because I finally understand something important. Marcus didn't die because I was a bad father. He died because evil people do evil things. That's not my fault. That's not my shame to carry. "You're wrong," I tell the creature. My voice is steady now, strong. "My boy died because of hate, not because of me." The thing stops moving. Its glowing eyes flicker like candles in the wind. "I loved Marcus," I say, louder now. "I wasn't perfect, but I loved him, and he knew it. That's what matters." The creature starts to shrink. Just a little bit, but I can see it happening. It's getting smaller because I'm not feeding it guilt anymore. "My great-great-grandfather," I say, looking right into those yellow eyes. "He was brave. He fought for his freedom and died fighting. I'm proud of him." Shrinking more now. The thing is getting desperate. It changes back into Marcus's shape, trying to make me feel guilty again. "Daddy, why didn't you save me?" it says, in Marcus's voice. But I know that's not really Marcus talking. My boy would never try to hurt me like that. "My grandfather," I continue, "he was strong. He raised a family when the world didn't want him to succeed. I'm proud of him too." The creature roars, but it sounds weaker now, more afraid than angry. I start walking toward it. My feet aren't stuck anymore. Each step I take makes me feel stronger and makes the thing look smaller. My father died at 19 in World War II. He died fighting for a country that didn't always treat him right. But he fought anyway, because that's what Washington men do. We fight, we survive, we protect our families. The thing is backing away now. It's about the size of a regular dog and getting smaller. There's an old oak tree behind the creature, the biggest tree in this part of the forest. I can see rope marks on one of the branches. This is where they used to hang people like me back in the old days. This is where some of my family probably died. But I'm not afraid of that tree anymore. I'm going to climb it. "What are you doing?" the creature hisses. Its voice doesn't sound like Marcus anymore. Now it just sounds scared. "I'm going to face what you're really afraid of," I tell it. "I'm going to face the truth." I grab the lowest branch and pull myself up. The creature follows me, but it's small now, about the size of a house cat. It claws at my legs as I climb, and I can feel it cutting through my pants. But I keep climbing. The higher I get, the smaller it gets. By the time I reach the branch with the rope marks, the thing is tiny, like a mouse with yellow eyes. I sit on that branch, the same branch where my ancestors died, and I'm not ashamed of them. I'm not guilty about surviving when they didn't. I'm proud of them, proud of their strength, proud of their courage, proud of their love. I break this curse, I say out loud. I break it with pride, not shame. I break it with love, not guilt. I break it for Marcus and for all the Washington men who come after me. The tiny creature makes one last desperate attack. It jumps at my face, and its little claws cut deep into my left arm. The pain is sharp and hot, and I can feel blood running down to my elbow. But that's all it can do now. One last bite. One last mark. Then it falls to the ground and disappears into the fog. The forest starts to wake up. I can hear birds singing again. The fog begins to clear. The air smells like autumn leaves instead of old blood. I climb down from the tree, holding my hurt arm against my chest. It's bad. I'll probably lose some use of it forever, but that's okay. Some prices are worth paying. When I get back to my truck, the CB radio is playing normal music again. The fog is gone. The creek runs clear. I drive home to Dolores and tell her everything. She looks at me different now, not like she's seeing ghosts, but like she's seeing her husband again. 6 months later, my daughter-in-law gives birth to Marcus's son, a grandson I didn't even know was coming. She names him Thomas Marcus Washington. He's healthy, he's strong, and when he cries, he doesn't sound afraid. He sounds free. The curse is broken, the chain is cut, and the Washington men can finally rest easy. My name is William O'Malley, and I'm a forest ranger. What happened to me in December of 1956 changed everything I thought I knew about right and wrong, life and death. It was December 19th, just after 4 in the afternoon. The sun was getting low, making long shadows between the pine trees. I was walking through a part of Manistee National Forest that most folks avoided. There was something wrong with this place. Had been for as long as anyone could remember. The first thing I noticed was the taste, iron and ash, sitting heavy on my tongue like I'd been sucking on old pennies. My mouth went dry, but that metallic taste just got stronger with every step I took deeper into the woods. The snow was falling, but not normal-like. It was coming down in weird patterns, making shapes on the ground that looked almost organized, like someone had planned where each flake would land. I stopped and stared at one spot where the snow had settled. It looked like men standing in a line, maybe 40 or 50 of them, all facing the same direction. My hands started shaking, and it wasn't from the cold. Something was stirring in my head, like memories that weren't mine. Pictures of this same forest, but different, older. Men with badges and guns, but not like mine. These men looked different, with dark skin and long black hair. They were wearing some kind of uniform I'd never seen before. Wood smoke drifted through the air, but I couldn't see any fire. The smell was strange too, not just burning wood, but something sweet and clean, mixed in. Like the herbs my grandmother used to burn when she was sick. Sage, maybe, or something like it. The light was getting stranger as the sun dropped lower. It was hitting the trees at just the right angle to make everything look gold and red, like the whole forest was on fire. But something about that light felt familiar, like I'd seen it before in a dream, or maybe in someone else's dream. My radio started making noise, not voices, but static with a weird pattern to it, almost like Morse code, but not quite. The crackling and buzzing got louder when I walked towards certain trees and quieter when I walked away. It was like the forest itself was trying to talk to me. I knelt down to look at some tracks in the snow. Deer, mostly, but some others I couldn't make out. The weird thing was how they were arranged. Most animal tracks are random, going this way and that as they look for food. These tracks made pictures, circles and lines and shapes that looked almost like writing. The temperature was dropping fast, faster than it should have been. I could see my breath getting thicker with each minute. My thermometer showed it was getting 1 degree colder every few minutes, like someone was turning down a giant thermostat. This part of the forest had always been strange. The old-timers in town called it the bad ground. They said it was where something terrible happened a long time ago, before their grandfathers were born. Something about a fight between the government and the Indian tribes who used to live here. The air pressure was doing something funny too. My ears kept popping, like I was going up in an airplane, but I was walking on flat ground. The feeling got stronger as I went deeper into the woods, like the very air was getting heavier and thicker. I checked my watch, 4:15 p.m. The light was dying fast now, and the shadows between the trees were getting longer and darker. I should have turned back, should have headed for my truck while I could still see the path. But something was pulling me forward, like a voice calling my name from deep in the woods. That's when I saw Murphy's tracks. Murphy was my dog, a German shepherd with one eye missing from a fight he'd gotten into last year. He was supposed to be back at the ranger station, but here were his paw prints in the snow, heading deeper into the bad ground. I called his name, but my voice sounded flat and dead in the thick air. No echo, no answer, just silence that felt too heavy, too complete. The iron taste in my mouth was getting stronger. I spat in the snow, and what came out was dark red. Something was very wrong with this place, and I was starting to think it had been wrong for a very long time. Following Murphy's tracks deeper into the woods, I started remembering things that shouldn't have been my memories. Faces I'd never seen, voices speaking words I didn't understand, and blood. Lots of blood. My name is William Patrick O'Malley. I'm 38 years old, and I've been a ranger for 15 years. But walking through this forest, I felt like I was someone else. Someone much older. Someone with dirty hands and a guilty heart. My great-grandfather's name was Patrick O'Malley, too. He came here from Ireland in the 1840s looking for work and a new life. What I never knew until today was what kind of work he found. The memories hit me like cold water. I saw him in a blue uniform, carrying a rifle, standing with other men in a line, all of them white, all of them angry, facing a group of Native American men who wore different badges, different uniforms. These men had dark skin and serious faces. They looked like police, but not the kind I knew. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every time I touched my badge, it felt burning hot against my chest. The metal seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. When I looked down at it, I could swear I saw dark stains that weren't there before. Murphy had been with me for 3 years. He lost his eye in what I thought was a dogfight behind Miller's Tavern. But now, standing in this cursed ground, I remembered different. It wasn't another dog that hurt him. It was something else, something that moved in the shadows and had yellow eyes that glowed in the dark. That thing had been hunting me, testing me. Murphy got in the way and paid the price. My partner, Sean Flanagan, died 6 months ago. Car accident, they said. Lost control on a straight road on a clear day. But Sean's family had been getting picked off one by one for years. Car crashes, hunting accidents, drownings in shallow water. Always the men, always the ones who wore badges. I pulled out my service revolver and checked the bullets. 6 shots, all of them special. Last month, an old Indian man came to see me at the ranger station. He wouldn't give his name, just said he knew what was coming for me. He blessed these bullets with smoke and words I didn't understand, said I'd need them when the time came. I thought he was crazy then. Now I wasn't so sure. The government files I'd read said there was something called Pattern 47, families marked for what they called supernatural justice, names that kept showing up in accident reports and death certificates. O'Malley was on that list. So was Flanagan. So were 12 other Irish families who came to Michigan in the 1840s. This patrol wasn't random. My supervisor specifically sent me to this section of forest today, December 19th. He said there had been reports of strange activity, but he wouldn't say what kind. Now I wondered if he knew more than he let on. The truth was sitting in my stomach, like a rock. Every good thing I'd ever done as a ranger, every time I'd helped someone or saved someone, it all came from the same place. Guilt. Deep, old guilt that lived in my blood. My great-grandfather's guilt, passed down like blue eyes or red hair. I'd spent my whole life trying to be the opposite of him, trying to protect people instead of hurt them, trying to uphold justice instead of destroy it. But you can't outrun your blood. You can't make up for sins you inherited before you were born. The forest was getting darker. Murphy's tracks led toward a thick grove of pine trees where the shadows were so deep I couldn't see the ground. From somewhere in that darkness, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. A howl. Long and low and full of pain. But it wasn't a wolf howl. It was something else. Something that had once been human. More voices joined the first one. 40, maybe 50 different howls, all singing the same sad, angry song. They were calling for something, calling for someone. They were calling for me. I followed the sound deeper into the trees. My flashlight beam shook as I walked, making crazy shadows dance between the branches. Murphy's tracks were getting fresher. I could smell him now, that wet dog smell mixed with something else. Something like fear. The howling stopped all at once. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. It felt like the whole forest was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. That's when I found the camp. Someone had been hunting here recently. There was a tent, half torn down. A cooler knocked over with food scattered in the snow. Camping chairs thrown around like a tornado hit them. But the weird thing was what got destroyed and what didn't. All the hunting gear was smashed to pieces. Rifles bent in half. Hunting knives snapped like twigs. But the regular camping stuff, the sleeping bags, the coffee pot, the playing cards, they were untouched. Whatever did this only cared about weapons. Only cared about things used to hurt others. Dark stains covered the snow around the camp. They were too dark to be blood, but they smelled like copper and old meat. When I shined my light on them, they seemed to move and shift like they were alive. My radio crackled to life. But instead of dispatch, I heard voices from long ago, men talking in formal, old-fashioned English. The defendant, Patrick O'Malley, stands accused of murder in the first degree. 47 counts of unlawful killing. The native peace officers were executing their lawful duties. I turned the radio off, but the voices kept coming. They were in my head now, playing out a trial that never happened. A trial that should have happened, but was covered up by men with more power than conscience. Movement in the trees caught my eye. Yellow. Lights like eyes, but too high off the ground to be any animal I knew. They blinked once, twice, then disappeared. More appeared behind different trees. Then more. I counted at least 20 pairs, forming a circle around me. The smell hit me. Next. Wet fur and something burning. Not wood smoke this time, but something sharp and bitter, like sulfur from old matches, mixed with the sage smell from before. Murphy whined somewhere in the darkness ahead. He sounded hurt, scared. I called his name and heard him whimper back. He was alive, but something was wrong. Fog started rolling in between the trees, thick and white like milk. It moved wrong, though. Instead of drifting with the wind, it flowed in straight lines, purposeful, like it knew where it was going. Whispers came with the fog, voices speaking, words I'd heard before in old Western movies, Native American languages, but I could understand them somehow, like they were speaking directly to my mind instead of my ears. The son of the killer walks among us. Justice delayed, but not forgotten. The blood debt must be paid. I tried to walk back the way I came, but my feet wouldn't obey. I kept turning in circles, ending up in the same spot no matter which direction I chose. The trees all looked the same now. The path I'd followed was gone. That's when I saw the first one clearly. It stood between two pine trees about 50 yards away, tall as a man, but shaped wrong. The body was human, but the head was like a wolf's. It wore something that looked like a uniform, dark and old-fashioned. A badge glinted on its chest, catching the moonlight. The thing tilted its head and studied me. Its yellow eyes were intelligent, patient. It wasn't in any hurry. It knew I couldn't leave. More shapes moved in the fog, dozens of them, all with the same wrong mixture of human and wolf, all wearing old uniforms, all with badges that caught the light like cold stars. They began to circle me, moving silently through the snow. Their tracks were strange, like wolf paws but with thumb marks, like hands that had learned to walk on 4 legs instead of 2. My blessed bullets felt warm in the gun. The old Indian man's words came back to me. They can be hurt, but not killed. They're already dead, but they can be sent away if you show them proper respect. One of them stepped forward, bigger than the others, with silver in its dark fur. The badge on its chest was different too, fancier, with more decoration. A chief's badge. When it spoke, I heard my great-grandfather's voice coming out of its wolf mouth. "Hello, Patrick," it said, using his Irish accent. "We've been waiting for you to come home." I raised my gun, but my hands were shaking so hard I could barely aim. The thing that looked like a wolf but sounded like my ancestor smiled with too many teeth. "You can't run from what you inherited, boy. Your blood carries our deaths. Tonight you answer for his crimes." The circle was getting tighter. Murphy whined again from somewhere behind them, and I realized this had always been the plan. I was meant to be here, on this date, in this place. The hunt was finally over. The big wolf thing that spoke with my great-grandfather's voice stepped closer. In the moonlight, I could see scars across its chest and throat. Bullet wounds. Rope burns around its neck. This was how it died over 100 years ago. "My name was Ogichida Macoons," it said, the Irish accent fading into something older. "Little Bear Warrior. I was the police chief for my people. Your great-grandfather shot me in the back while I was trying to protect my men." The other wolf spirits moved closer. Each one bore the marks of how they died. Some had bullet holes, others had knife wounds. A few looked like they'd been beaten to death. 47 murdered peace officers, all seeking justice that never came. "We enforced the treaties," Little Bear Warrior continued. "We kept the peace between our people and yours. We wore badges just like you do now. We took an oath to protect and serve, and your people killed us for it." I tried to speak, but no words came out. What could I say? Sorry didn't seem big enough for 47 murders. "Every generation we take one," the spirit said. "One descendant from each family that spilled our blood. We've been patient. We've been fair. We followed your laws even in death." Behind him, Murphy limped into view. My dog was hurt, but alive. One of the spirits had been guarding him, keeping him safe. They weren't monsters. They were still lawmen, even as spirits. "You have a choice, William Patrick O'Malley," Little Bear Warrior said. "The same choice we gave your cousin Sean. The same one we gave your Uncle Thomas. The same one we'll give your nephew when his time comes." My radio crackled again. This time I heard Sean's voice, recorded somehow on frequencies that shouldn't exist. "I choose to run," Sean's voice said through the static. "I choose to make you hunt me." "And we did hunt him," the spirit said sadly. "For 6 months, we chased him, made his life a nightmare. Every shadow held our eyes. Every night brought our howls, until finally, on a clear road with no other cars, we gave him the end he chose." I understood now. Sean's car accident wasn't random. He'd chosen to be hunted rather than face justice directly. But running only made it worse, made it cruel. "What's the other choice?" I asked. The spirit pointed with one clawed hand toward a massive oak tree at the edge of the clearing. Its trunk was scarred with old rope marks. This was where they'd hanged Little Bear Warrior after shooting him. "You climb that tree," he said. "You put the rope around your neck just like they did to me. You pay the debt in full, here and now, clean, quick, honorable." I looked at the tree, at the rope burns in its bark, at the 47 spirits waiting for my answer. "There's a third choice," the spirit continued, "but it's not an easy one." "What is it?" "Join us, become what we are, spend eternity hunting the descendants of the other families, help us collect the debts owed in blood, wear our badge instead of theirs." He gestured to the silver star on his chest. It gleamed with cold light, nothing like the warm metal of my ranger badge. "You've spent your life trying to make up for his crimes," Little Bear Warrior said. "You've been a good man, William, honest, fair. You've protected people instead of hurting them. We've watched you. We know your heart." The other spirits nodded, their yellow eyes reflecting something that might have been respect. But good deeds don't erase blood debts. They never have. They never will. I thought about my nephew, Danny. He was only 12 years old, living with his mother in Detroit. Someday, when he grew up, these spirits would come for him too, and his son after that, and his son's son. The cycle would never end unless someone broke it. "If I join you," I said, "what happens to Danny, to the other kids in our families?" "Their debts become yours to collect," the spirit said. "You hunt the other bloodlines. They go free." I looked at Murphy panting in the snow, at the spirits surrounding me, at the tree where a good man died for doing his job. "Will it hurt?" I asked. "Everything hurts," Little Bear Warrior said gently. "Living hurts, dying hurts, being dead hurts. The question is, what kind of hurt serves justice?" I made my choice. I walked to the old oak tree and began to climb. The spirits watched in silence as I pulled myself up branch by branch. At the top, I could see the whole forest spread out below me. It looked peaceful from up here, beautiful even. I felt the rope around my neck, rough and cold. Below me, Little Bear Warrior raised his head and howled. The other spirits joined him, 47 voices singing me home. But as the rope tightened, something strange happened. Instead of darkness, I saw light. Instead of ending, I felt beginning. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in the snow again, but I was different now. Taller, stronger. My hands had become claws, my face stretched into a wolf's muzzle. A badge gleamed on my chest, not silver like theirs, but gold, the badge of a chief. "Welcome to the Force, Chief O'Malley," Little Bear Warrior said, with what sounded like a smile. "Your first assignment starts tomorrow. There's a family named Morrison living up in Traverse City. Their great-grandfather owed us a debt too." I howled once, testing my new voice. It sounded right. It sounded like justice. Murphy padded over and nuzzled my furry hand. He wasn't afraid of what I'd become. Dogs understand loyalty better than people do. Together we walked into the forest. 48 spirits now, instead of 47. The hunt would continue, but at least the O'Malley debt was finally paid, and my nephew Danny could grow up free. My name is Elizabeth Murphy, and I'm a park ranger at Boggy Creek in Arkansas. What happened to me on September 23rd, 1983, changed everything I thought I knew about nature. It started early that morning. I was paddling my canoe through the quiet waters like I did every day. The sun was just coming up, painting the cypress trees golden. Everything seemed normal at first. But then I tasted something strange in the air, like fresh leaves mixed with old metal. I stopped paddling and listened. The swamp was never completely quiet, but this was different. All the usual sounds, frogs croaking, birds calling, water lapping, they all seemed to be following the same beat, like a giant heartbeat echoing through the whole place. My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about our Creek Nation ancestors. She said some people could feel what the land was feeling, could hear when nature was trying to talk. I always thought those were just old stories. But sitting there in my canoe, I started to wonder. The cypress roots under the water looked different, too. They seemed to pulse with that same rhythm I was hearing. When I touched the water with my paddle, Tiny ripples spread out in perfect circles, like the swamp was responding to me. Then the Spanish moss started moving. There was no wind that morning. The air was completely still, but the moss swayed back and forth, all in the same direction, like invisible hands were pushing it. I've been working these wetlands for 3 years now. I know every sound, every smell, every trick the morning mist can play on your eyes. But this felt different. The mist was rising from the water in strange patterns, not random like usual, but in shapes that almost looked like thoughts. My radio crackled with static, even though it was brand new. Through the noise, I could hear something that sounded almost like singing, low, deep notes that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The blue herons caught my attention next. There were 12 of them standing in the shallow water, but they weren't hunting or fishing. They were just standing there in a perfect line, all facing the same direction. When one moved, they all moved together, like they were connected by invisible strings. I checked my watch, 7:42 a.m. The water temperature gauge on my equipment was jumping around like crazy. Hot, then cold, then hot again. But the water felt normal when I dipped my hand in it. That's when I noticed my hands were shaking. Not from fear. I'd been in the military before this job, and I wasn't easily scared. My hands were shaking because something inside me was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for a long time. The air pressure changed suddenly, like right before a big storm hits. But the sky was clear. My ears popped, and for just a moment I could swear I heard voices whispering in a language I didn't recognize, but somehow understood. The swamp was trying to tell me something, and whatever it was important. I started paddling deeper into the wetlands, following an old trail I'd marked months ago. But as I moved through the water, I had the strangest feeling that I wasn't really choosing where to go anymore. Something was calling me forward. My name is Elizabeth Murphy, and I'm a park ranger at Boggy Creek in Arkansas. What happened to me on September 23rd, 1983, changed everything I thought I knew about nature. It started early that morning. I was paddling my canoe through the quiet waters like I did every day. The sun was just coming up, painting the cypress. Trees golden. Everything seemed normal at first, but then I tasted something strange in the air, like fresh leaves mixed with old metal. I stopped paddling and listened. The swamp was never completely quiet, but this was different. All the usual sounds, frogs croaking, birds calling, water lapping, they all seemed to be following the same beat, like a giant heartbeat echoing through the whole place. My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about our Creek Nation ancestors. She said some people could feel what the land was feeling, could hear when nature was trying to talk. I always thought those were just old stories. But sitting there in my canoe, I started to wonder. The cypress roots under the water looked different, too. They seemed to pulse with that same rhythm I was hearing. When I touched the water with my paddle, tiny ripples spread out in perfect circles, like the swamp was responding to me. Then the Spanish moss started moving. There was no wind that morning. The air was completely still, but the moss swayed back and forth, all in the same direction, like invisible hands were pushing it. I've been working these wetlands for 3 years now. I know every sound, every smell, every trick the morning mist can play on your eyes. But this felt different. The mist was rising from the water in strange patterns, not random like usual, but in shapes that almost looked like thoughts. My radio crackled with static, even though it was brand new. Through the noise, I could hear something that sounded almost like singing, low, deep notes that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The blue herons caught my attention next. There were 12 of them standing in the shallow water, but they weren't hunting or fishing. They were just standing there in a perfect line, all facing the same direction. When one moved, they all moved together, like they were connected by invisible strings. I checked my watch, 7:42 a.m. The water temperature gauge on my equipment was jumping around like crazy. Hot, then cold, then hot again. But the water felt normal when I dipped my hand in it. That's when I noticed my hands were shaking. Not from fear. I'd been in the military before this job, and I wasn't easily scared. My hands were shaking because something inside me was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for a long time. The air pressure changed suddenly, like right before a big storm hits. But the sky was clear. My ears popped, and for just a moment I could swear I heard voices whispering in a language I didn't recognize, but somehow understood. The swamp was trying to tell me something, and whatever it was important. I started paddling deeper into the wetlands, following an old trail I'd marked months ago. But as I moved through the water, I had the strangest feeling that I wasn't really choosing where to go anymore. Something was calling me forward. As I paddled deeper into the swamp, more strange things started happening. All the alligators disappeared at exactly the same time. 1 second they were sunning themselves on logs and muddy banks, and the next second, gone. Every single one slipped into the water without making a sound. That's not normal. Alligators don't do things together like that. They're loners. But these moved like they'd gotten some kind of signal I couldn't hear. The silence that followed was the kind that makes your skin crawl. No insects buzzing, no birds calling. Even the water stopped making its usual gentle lapping sounds against my canoe. It was like someone had turned off all the noise in the world. I've been in combat zones where things went quiet before an attack. This felt exactly the same. I kept paddling, but my hands were getting sweaty on the paddle. That's when I saw the first handprint in the mud. It was huge, bigger than mine, bigger than any human hand should be. The fingers were too long, and there were marks that looked like claws. But here's what really bothered me. The print was fresh. The edges were still sharp, and water was still seeping into it. Someone or something had just been here. I pulled my canoe up to a small island to take a closer look. That's when I found more prints, lots of them. They led away from the water into the thick trees, but they weren't in a straight line like a person walking. They were scattered around like whatever made them had been dancing, or maybe circling something. The smell hit me next. It wasn't bad exactly, but it was strong and wild, like wet fur mixed with old leaves and something else I couldn't name. It made me think of animals, but not any animal I knew. I followed the prints into the trees, keeping my radio close. The deeper I went, the stronger that smell got. And that's when I found what was left of Jake Morrison's camp. Jake was a poacher who'd been working these waters illegally for months. I'd been trying to catch him, but he always stayed one step ahead of me. Now I knew why I hadn't seen him lately. His camp was destroyed, but not by any storm. His tent was shredded, like something with very sharp claws had gone crazy on it. His hunting rifles were twisted into shapes that didn't make sense. Metal bent like it was soft clay. No human could do that. But the weird part was the plants. Vines had grown through everything overnight. Thick green shoots pushed up through his cooking pots and wrapped around his gear. In nature, plants don't grow that fast. It takes weeks, sometimes months. This had happened in hours, maybe less. I picked up his radio. It was smashed, but when I turned it on, it crackled to life. Through the static, I heard something that made my blood run cold. It sounded like whale songs, but whales don't live in Arkansas swamps. The sounds were deep and sad and somehow intelligent, like something big was trying to talk to me. I looked around Jake's ruined camp and realized something that made my hands shake even more. There was no sign of Jake himself, no body, no blood, no torn clothes, just his destroyed gear and those impossible handprints everywhere. Whatever had done this had taken him somewhere. I needed to get out of there, fast. But as I turned to head back to my canoe, I heard a splash behind me. Then another and another. I turned around slowly, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The water near the edge of the island was moving, but not from wind or current. Something was coming up from below. First, I saw what looked like a log floating toward me. Nothing strange about that. Logs float in swamps all the time. But then I noticed this log had eyes. Big, dark eyes that were watching me with an intelligence I'd never seen in any animal. More shapes started rising from the water. What I'd thought were rocks and fallen branches were actually heads, lots of them. They moved with purpose, like they were all connected to the same brain. I counted at least 8 different creatures, but they didn't look like any swamp animals I knew. Some had the long snouts of alligators, but their eyes were too bright, too aware. Others looked like giant turtles, but they moved too fast and too smoothly through the water. The strangest part was how they worked together. When one moved left, another would move right, like they were planning something. They formed a half circle around my little island, cutting off my path back to the canoe. I reached for the gun, on my belt, but my hands were shaking too much to get a good grip. In the military, they teach you to stay calm under pressure, but they never taught me what to do when nature itself seems to be hunting you. One of the creatures, the biggest one, came closer to shore. It lifted its head completely out of the water, and I could see it wasn't quite an alligator. The shape was wrong. The teeth were too sharp and arranged in ways that didn't make sense. But the eyes were the worst part. They looked almost human, like there was a person trapped inside that strange body trying to communicate with me. It opened its mouth and made a sound I'll never forget, not a roar or a hiss like you'd expect. It was almost like words, like it was trying to talk to me in a language I should understand but couldn't quite grasp. The other creatures started making sounds too, all different, but somehow they fit together like a conversation. They were talking to each other about me. I could feel it. I backed away toward the center of the island, but there wasn't much room. The whole piece of land was maybe 20 feet across. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. That's when something impossible happened. My radio, which had been quiet since I'd found Jake's camp, suddenly came to life. But it wasn't picking up any station I knew. Instead, I heard my own voice. "Elizabeth," the radio said in my voice. "Elizabeth, don't be afraid." I stared at the radio in my hand. I hadn't said those words, but it was definitely my voice coming through the speaker. "We need to talk," my voice continued. "We've been waiting for you." The creatures in the water had gone completely still. They were all watching me, waiting to see what I would do. The air felt thick and heavy, like right before lightning hits. I looked at the radio, then at the circle of strange eyes watching me from the water. My military training told me to fight or run, but something deeper, something that felt old and familiar, told me to listen. "Who are you?" I whispered to the radio. "We are what this place has always been," came the answer in my own voice. "And you are one of us." I didn't wait to hear what else the radio might say. My survival training kicked in, and I ran. There was only one way off the island, through the shallow water on the far side. I splashed into the muddy creek, moving as fast as I could toward the thick cypress trees. Behind me, I heard the creatures, sliding into the water, following. But they didn't chase me the way animals normally would. There was no splashing or roaring. They moved through the water like shadows, quiet and smooth. That scared me more than if they'd been loud and wild. I reached the trees and kept running, pushing through the Spanish moss and low branches. My boots sank into the soft ground with every step, making wet, sucking sounds. The swamp was fighting me, trying to slow me down. That's when I realized something terrible. I wasn't lost. Even though I'd never been in this exact part of the wetland before, I knew exactly where I was going. Something inside me was guiding my steps, like I was following a map I couldn't see. I stopped behind a big cypress tree to catch my breath and listen. The silence was back, but it felt different now. It felt like the whole swamp was holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do next. My radio crackled again. "Elizabeth, you can't run from us forever." Still my own voice, still that calm, patient tone that didn't sound like me at all. "We're not trying to hurt you," the radio continued. "We're trying to save you." I turned the radio off and threw it as far as I could into the murky water. But even without it, I could still hear that voice echoing in my head. I started moving again, trying to find my way back to where I'd left my canoe, but the swamp looked different now. Trees I was sure I'd never seen before stood in my path. Channels of water appeared where I remembered solid ground. It was like the whole place was changing around me, rearranging itself to keep me lost. Then I heard something that made my blood freeze. Footsteps. Heavy, wet footsteps following me through the mud. But when I turned around, nothing was there. Just empty swamp and drifting fog. The footsteps came from different directions now. Left, then right, then behind me again. Whatever was out there was smart enough to surround me without letting me see it. I pulled out my gun and held it ready. The metal felt cold and solid in my shaking hands. At least it was something real, something I could understand. A branch cracked to my left. I spun around, gun raised, but saw only shadows moving between the trees. The shadows were too big to be normal animals, and they moved wrong, too fluid, like they were made of water instead of flesh. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might burst. I'd been in firefights before, but this was different. In combat, you know what you're fighting. Here, I didn't even know if bullets would work. The fog was getting thicker, wrapping around. My legs like cold fingers. I could barely see 10 feet in any direction, but I could feel eyes watching me from everywhere at once. "Elizabeth." The voice came from right beside me now, not from any radio. Soft and gentle, like someone trying to calm a frightened animal. I spun toward the sound, gun ready to fire, but there was nothing there except fog and the smell of old water. "You're one of us," the voice whispered from behind me. "You've always been one of us. You just forgot." I was breathing too fast, starting to panic. In the military, they teach you that panic gets you killed. I had to stay calm, had to think, but thinking was getting harder. The fog seemed to be creeping into my mind, making everything fuzzy and strange. My thoughts felt like they belonged to someone else. I stumbled through the fog until I hit something solid. Not a tree, something smooth and hard. I put my hands out and felt cool stone under my fingers. It was a wall that shouldn't exist in the middle of a swamp. I followed it with my hands, feeling along the surface until I found an opening. It felt like a doorway, but not quite the right shape. The top was curved and the sides were too narrow, like it was made for people who weren't quite human. I had two choices: stay outside in the fog with whatever was hunting me, or go inside this strange place. Neither felt safe, but at least inside I might be able to see what I was dealing with. I stepped through the doorway and immediately felt different. The air was cleaner and the fog didn't follow me in. My head cleared and I could think again. I was inside a hollow cypress tree, but not just any tree. This one was enormous, bigger than any I'd ever seen. The inside had been carved out long ago, and the walls were covered with pictures. I pulled out my flashlight and shined it around. The pictures were old, really old. They looked like the kind of drawings my great-grandmother used to show me in her books about our Creek ancestors. But these weren't in any book. They showed people and animals living together in ways that seemed impossible. People with their hands on the heads of bears and wolves. Birds bringing messages to humans. Trees with faces that looked wise and kind. At the center of one wall was a picture that made me stop breathing. It showed a woman who looked exactly like me, standing in the middle of a group of animals. But the animals weren't normal animals. They were the same strange shapes I'd seen in the water. Above the woman's head were symbols I didn't recognize but somehow understood. They meant bridge and speaker and chosen one. "Now you're starting," To remember, said a voice behind me. I spun around, gun ready, but it was just an old man. He was sitting on a fallen log like he'd been there all along. His skin was dark and weathered, and his eyes were the same deep brown as the swamp water. "Who are you?" I asked, but I kept my gun pointed at him. "I'm what's left of the last keeper," he said. "Been waiting here for you for a long time, Elizabeth. How do you know my name?" He smiled, and I noticed his teeth were too sharp. "Your great-grandmother told you stories, didn't she? About people who could talk to the land." I nodded slowly. Something about his voice made me want to trust him, even though everything in my training said not to. "Those weren't just stories," he continued. "Your family has always been special. We've been waiting for one of you to come back." "We?" He gestured to the pictures on the walls. "This place, this swamp. We're not just plants and animals, Elizabeth. We're something older than that. Something that was here before the first humans walked this land." I looked at the pictures again. The woman who looked like me was surrounded by those strange creatures, but she wasn't afraid. She was smiling. "What happened to the poacher?" I asked. "Jake Morrison." The old man's face got sad. He couldn't understand. He was hurting us, killing us for sport. We tried to make him leave, but he wouldn't listen. So we had to protect ourselves. "You killed him." "We absorbed him," he said quietly. "He's part of us now, part of the whole. It's not death, Elizabeth, it's becoming something bigger." I felt sick. "That's murder." "Is it murder when your body fights off a disease?" he asked. "We're not evil, child. We're just trying to survive, and we're running out of time." He pointed to another picture on the wall. This one showed the swamp much bigger than it was now, stretching far beyond the boundaries I knew. But in the next picture, it was smaller, and in the one after that, smaller still. "They're destroying us," he said. "The cities, the pollution, the people who don't understand. Every year we get smaller. Every year we lose more of ourselves." "So you want me to help you kill more people?" "No," he said. "We want you to help us talk to them, to make them understand before it's too late." When I woke up, I was lying on the ground outside the hollow tree. The helicopters were gone, and so was the old man. But I wasn't alone. I could feel every living thing around me like they were parts of my own body. The cypress trees, the alligators, the birds, even the tiny fish in the water. I felt connected to all of them. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. My body looked the same, but I knew I was different. When I touched the water, I could taste what the fish were feeling. When I put my hand on a tree, I could hear its slow, deep thoughts. I walked back to where I'd left my canoe. It was still there, but I didn't need it anymore. I could travel through the swamp by asking the water to carry me, by having the trees bend their branches to help me move. For 3 days, I lived in the swamp, learning how to use my new abilities. I tried to contact the government to explain what had happened, but every time I got near a radio or phone, the signal would cut out. The ecosystem was protecting itself from outside interference. On the 4th day, I finally managed to make contact with my supervisor. Her name was Janet, and she was so relieved to hear from me. "Elizabeth, we thought you were dead. Where have you been?" I tried to explain about the collective, about the ecosystem defending itself, about the choice I'd made. But even as I spoke, I could hear how crazy it sounded. "You need to come in," Janet said. "You need medical attention. You've been missing for days." "I'm not sick," I told her. "I'm trying to help you understand. This place is alive, Janet. It's intelligent and it's dying. We need to protect it." There was a long silence on the radio. Then Janet's voice came back, but it sounded different, cold and careful. "Elizabeth, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Come to the ranger station. We have people who want to talk to you." but I could feel what she wasn't saying. I could sense the fear in her voice, the way her heart was beating too fast. Through my connection to the swamp, I could even feel the presence of other people listening to our conversation. They thought I was dangerous. Over the next few weeks, I tried to work with the government officials who came to study the swamp. I showed them how the ecosystem worked, how all the different parts communicated with each other. I explained that it wasn't trying to hurt anyone, it just wanted to survive. But they didn't believe me. They thought I was sick, maybe suffering from some kind of mental breakdown. They wanted to take me away for treatment. That's when I realized the horrible truth. I could feel it happening through my connection to the land. The swamp was growing, not just physically, but the collective. Consciousness was spreading to other wetlands, other forests. It was trying to protect itself by becoming too big to destroy. And it was my fault. By joining with the ecosystem, I'd given it something it never had before, a human perspective. It was learning from me, copying my fears and my desperate need to survive. The government officials started talking about containment, about controlled burns, about ways to stop the spread before it got out of hand. I tried to reason with them. You don't understand, I told them. If you attack it, it will fight back. And it's connected to everything now, every tree, every animal. You can't kill it without destroying the entire ecosystem. But they wouldn't listen. They classified me as a threat and started planning something they called Protocol Scorched Earth. Through my connection to the swamp, I could feel the plans forming. They were going to burn everything. Not just Boggy Creek, but every wetland, every forest where the collective had spread. They were going to destroy hundreds of thousands of acres of wilderness to stop what they saw as an infection. That's when I faced the most terrible choice of my life. I could feel the collective preparing to defend itself. It was ready to spread even faster, to take over more land, to absorb more people like it had absorbed Jake Morrison. But I also knew that if it did that, if it became too aggressive, the government would use even more extreme measures. They might poison the water, spray chemicals from airplanes, or do things that would kill everything for miles around. I had to choose between my own species and the planet that was trying to protect itself. Standing there in the middle of the swamp that had become my home, feeling the fear and anger of thousands of living things, I made my decision. I chose the Earth. The last thing I remember before the transformation was complete was the sound of helicopters returning and the smell of smoke in the distance. The war between humanity and nature had begun, and I was no longer sure which side would win, or if either side should. My name is Maria Gonzalez. I'm 27 years old and I work as a park ranger, but what happened to me on November 12th, 1967, changed everything I thought I knew about the world. It was late at night, almost midnight. I was walking through this place, called the TNT area in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. People called it that because the army used to make bombs there during the war. Now it was just old empty buildings and dead trees. I was supposed to check the area to make sure no one was doing anything bad there. But as soon as I got close to those old buildings, I knew something was very wrong. The air tasted weird, like when you put a penny in your mouth, but much stronger. It made me want to spit. I could smell something burning too, even though I didn't see any fire anywhere. Around my neck, I wore my grandmother's rosary beads. She gave them to me before she died. All of a sudden, they started getting hot against my skin, really hot, like they were on fire. That scared me because my grandmother always said those beads only got hot when something bad was about to happen. My grandmother was special, you see. She could see things before they happened, like when she told everyone that something terrible would happen at Pearl Harbor. Nobody believed her. They said she was crazy and put her in a hospital. But she was right. Then I heard this sound. It was like a giant machine humming deep underground. The sound was so low and deep that I felt it in my chest. It made my whole body shake. My dog Angel was with me, and he started making scared noises and trying to pull me away. That's when I saw something that made my heart stop. Owls were falling out of the trees, not flying down, falling like rocks. They were dead before they hit the ground. When I looked at one up close, its eyes were rolled back, so I could only see the white parts. It was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. More and more owls kept falling. Soon there were dead birds all around me. Angel was shaking and whining, staring at something behind me. I turned around and looked at the Ohio River. But what I saw in the water wasn't normal. Instead of seeing the night sky reflected back at me, I saw something else. Something impossible. I saw a big silver bridge with cars driving on it. As I watched, the bridge started shaking. Then it twisted like a pretzel. Then the whole thing fell into the water, taking all the cars and people with it. I could almost hear the people screaming. But here's the thing, there was no bridge there. I knew that area really well. There wasn't supposed to be any bridge where I was looking. The air around me started acting crazy. One second it was hot like summer, the next it was cold like winter. It kept changing back and forth. It felt like the air itself was alive and thinking. I turned on my flashlight to see better, but when the light hit the ground, the shadows it made weren't acting right. They were moving by themselves, showing me pictures of terrible things. Buildings falling down, people running and screaming, fires everywhere. My mouth started tasting like metal again, but worse. It tasted like screaming metal and burning hair. I felt sick to my stomach. Angel started howling, but it wasn't like any sound I'd heard him make before. It was high and strange, like he was trying to talk to something I couldn't see. I wanted to run. Every part of me was screaming to get out of there, but I couldn't move my feet. It felt like something big and powerful was watching me. Not just watching me right then, but like it had been watching me my whole life and knew I would be there. The humming sound got louder. The air kept changing from hot to cold. More owls fell from the trees around me, and then I realized something that made my blood turn to ice. I wasn't just some park ranger who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone or something had wanted me to be there. They had been waiting for me. The rosary beads burned hotter against my chest, and I knew this was only the beginning. I need to tell you about my family, about why I was really there that night. My full name is Maria Elena Gonzalez. I'm 27 years old, but I feel much older. You see, the women in my family have always been different. We see things. We know things before they happen, and it usually ruins our lives. My grandmother saw Pearl, our becoming. She tried to warn people, but they locked her up instead. My mother saw my father's death in a car crash 3 days before it happened. She tried to make him stay home, but he thought she was being silly. After he died, she never spoke about her dreams again. And me, I saw Robert's death. Robert was my fiancé. We were going to get married when he came back from Vietnam. He was a good man, kind and gentle. He used to write me letters every week. I still carry them with me, but I can't read them anymore. Every time I touch his handwriting, I see the moment he died. I see the bomb exploding. I see him calling my name. The worst part, I dreamed about his death 2 weeks before it happened. In the dream, I saw everything, the jungle, the hidden trap, the explosion. But I thought it was just a nightmare. I didn't believe my own gift. If I had warned him somehow, maybe he would still be alive. After Robert died, I tried to make the vision stop. I took pills. I drank too much. I even asked doctors to help me, but you can't turn off something that's in your blood. That's when the headaches started. Bad ones that felt like someone was hitting me in the head with a hammer. And the nosebleeds. Whenever I got upset or scared, blood would pour out of my nose. The doctor said it was stress. They didn't know the real reason. The strangest thing was that I could taste what other people were feeling. When someone was sad, I could taste salt. When they were angry, it tasted like metal. When they were scared, it tasted sour. Most people thought I was crazy when I told, them. Angel wasn't really my dog at first. He belonged to Robert. The army trained Angel to help soldiers who had problems with their minds after the war. But Angel always acted strange around me. He would stare at me for hours. Sometimes he would start whining and put his paws on me, like he was trying to protect me from something. After Robert died, Angel came to live with me. It was like he knew I needed him. Whenever I had one of my episodes, the headaches, the visions, the nosebleeds, Angel would stay right beside me until it was over. What I didn't know then was that the government had been watching my family for a very long time. They had files on my grandmother, my mother, and me. They knew about our gift. They were waiting to see what I could do. I thought I got the job as a park ranger because I was good at my work. But that wasn't the real reason. They wanted me in Point Pleasant. They knew something was going to happen there, and they needed someone like me to witness it. I was supposed to go to Yellowstone. I'd already packed my bags, but at the last minute they changed my assignment. They said there was an emergency in West Virginia. They needed me there right away. Now I understand why. Standing there in the TNT area, with dead owls all around me and that terrible taste. In my mouth I felt my gift waking up. It had been sleeping for months, ever since Robert died, but now it was coming back, stronger than ever. The metallic taste got worse. It felt like I was chewing on pennies and old batteries. My head started pounding. I could feel blood starting to drip from my nose. Angel was pressed against my leg, shaking. He knew what was happening to me. He had seen it before. I reached into my pocket and touched Robert's letters. For just a second I saw his face, but then the vision changed. I saw something else, something that made me gasp out loud. I saw the bridge again, the silver bridge falling into the water. But this time, I could see the date on a newspaper someone was reading in one of the cars, December 15th, 1967. That was only a month away. I was seeing the future again. And this time, I knew people were going to die unless someone stopped it. The problem was I didn't know if I was strong enough. The last time I tried to change what I saw in a vision, I failed. Robert still died. What if I failed again? Angel whined softly and looked up at me. In his eyes, I could see trust. He believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. The humming sound from underground got louder. The air around us started to shimmer like heat waves. Something was coming. Something big. I wiped the blood from my nose and took a deep breath. Whatever was about to happen, I knew I couldn't run away from it. Not this time. This was why I was here. This was what my family's gift was for. But first, I had to survive whatever was coming out of those old bunkers. Things started getting worse after that. Angel's whining changed. It wasn't normal dog sounds anymore. It was higher, stranger, like he was trying to match the humming that came from underground. The sound he made mixed with that deep humming, and together they created something that hurt my ears. Then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. It was too quiet. I know that sounds weird. How can something be too quiet? But think about it. Even at night there should be sounds, bugs buzzing, wind in the trees, small animals moving around, but there was nothing, just Angel's strange whining and that humming from below. It was like someone had sucked all the normal sounds out of the world. I looked up at the sky and saw red lights. At first, I thought they might be airplanes or helicopters, but they weren't moving like aircraft. They were arranged in perfect patterns, like someone had drawn shapes in the air with red marker, triangles, circles, lines that went nowhere. The lights weren't far away either. They were close enough that I should have been able to hear engines or rotors, but they made no sound at all. My mouth started tasting worse. Before it was like metal and pennies. Now it tasted like screaming and burning hair and something else I couldn't name. Something terrible that made me want to throw up. I walked toward one of the old bunkers, and that's when I found the circle. There was a perfect circle of dead grass, about 20 feet across. Inside the circle, nothing was growing. The ground was black and cracked. But here's the strange part. The grass didn't look like it had died slowly. It looked like it had been killed all at once, like someone had poured poison on it in a perfect circle. I knelt down and put my hand near the dead ground. I couldn't touch it. It felt wrong, like it would hurt me if I did, but I could feel something coming from it. Heat, but not normal heat. It was the kind of heat that makes your bones ache. Angel wouldn't go near the circle at all. He stayed far back, whimpering. That's when I started finding the animals. They were arranged in weird patterns around the dead circle. A raccoon here, a possum there, 3 rabbits in a straight line. They weren't torn up like they'd been attacked by other animals. They just looked like they had laid down and died. But the way they were positioned, it was too neat to be natural. It looked like someone had been doing experiments. The air started, making sounds I'd never heard before. Not voices exactly, but like voices played backward, or like someone was trying to talk through water. The sounds came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Angel's howling got louder. He was looking at something behind me, and the fur on his back was standing straight up. But every time I turned around, there was nothing there. Then my radio started acting up. I always carried a 2-way radio for emergencies. It was supposed to connect me to the ranger station, but instead of the usual static, I was hearing voices. Emergency voices, people talking fast, scared. Bridge. Collapse on Highway 35. Multiple casualties. Need all units. Water rescue teams to Silver Bridge location. We've got cars in the water. How many people were on that bridge? But here's the thing. There was no emergency happening. I would have known about it. These voices were talking about something that hadn't happened yet. They were talking about that bridge I saw falling in the water. The humming from underground got so loud I could feel it in my teeth. Angel started howling non-stop, a sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. He wasn't just scared anymore. He was in pain. The black liquid started seeping out of the old bunkers. At first, I thought it was oil or maybe old chemicals from when they made bombs there. But when I got closer, I could see it wasn't behaving like any liquid I knew. It moved too slowly, like thick honey, and it was warm. I could feel the heat coming off it even from 10 feet away. The worst part was the smell. It smelled like time itself was rotting. My nose started bleeding again, harder this time. The blood tasted different too, metallic and electric, like I was tasting lightning. My head felt like it was going to explode. That's when I heard the voices in my own head, not my thoughts, other voices, hundreds of them, all talking at once. Some were crying, some were screaming, some were calling for help. They were the voices of people who were going to die on that bridge. People who didn't even know they were in danger yet. Angel suddenly stopped howling. He went completely still, staring at something I couldn't see. Then he started backing away, step by step, never taking his eyes off whatever was there. The temperature around us started jumping back and forth like someone was playing with a thermostat. Hot, cold, so fast it made me dizzy. The red lights in the sky started moving, forming new patterns. They spelled out shapes that hurt to look at. Symbols that seemed to mean something important, but I couldn't understand what. My flashlight started flickering. In the broken light, I could see shadows that didn't match anything around me. Shadows of tall buildings falling down, shadows of people running, shadows of disasters that hadn't happened yet, but somehow were casting shadows anyway. The black liquid from the bunkers was spreading, moving toward the dead circle. When it reached the edge, the liquid started glowing with a sick green light. Angel whimpered once and pressed himself against my leg. He was shaking so hard I could feel it through my boots. That's when I realized we weren't alone anymore. Something was coming through. Something big was using all this strangeness to push its way into our world. The humming, the lights, the dead animals, the voices on the radio. It was all connected. It was all leading up to this moment. I could feel it watching me, studying me, deciding what to do with me. My grandmother's rosary beads were burning hot against my chest now, so hot they almost hurt, but I didn't take them off. Somehow, I knew they were the only thing keeping me safe. Angel looked up at me with scared eyes that seemed to say, "It's coming. It's finally coming." And he was right. The air in front of me started to bend and twist, like heat waves rising from hot pavement in summer. But it was November, and it was cold. Then I saw the wings. They unfolded from the twisted air, massive and dark, bigger than any bird I'd ever seen, bigger than airplane wings. They seemed to come from somewhere else, pushing through the air, like it was water. The creature stepped forward, and I got my first clear look at it. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, with the shape of a man, but covered in dark grey fur or feathers. I couldn't tell which. Its body kept changing, like I was looking at it through moving water. Sometimes it looked solid, sometimes I could see right through it to the trees behind. But the eyes, oh God, the eyes. They were huge and red, like 2 car headlights, but they weren't reflecting light like normal eyes. They were absorbing it, pulling in all the light around us. When I looked into them, I saw things, terrible things. Buildings falling, cars crashing, people dying. The creature didn't have a mouth that I could see. Its face was smooth except for those burning red eyes. But somehow I could hear its voice inside my head. It wasn't speaking English. It wasn't speaking any language at all. The words just appeared in my mind like someone was writing them directly on my brain. "You can see," it said without saying. "Good, we have been waiting." I tried to speak, but no words came out. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't work. Angel was pressed against me, shaking so hard I thought he might fall over. "Do not be afraid," the voice in my head continued. "We are not here to harm. We are here to warn." I finally found my voice. Warn about what? The bridge, the people. December 15th, you have seen it. I had seen it. In the water, in my dreams, on the radio, the Silver Bridge collapse. How do you know that? We see all times at once. Past, present, future. They are the same to us. But you are special. You can see pieces of what we see. The creature moved closer. Its feet didn't quite touch the ground. With each step, the air around it rippled like water. "What are you?" I whispered. "We are watchers. We observe. We study. Your species interests us." Angel suddenly collapsed. Not like he was hurt, but like his mind couldn't handle what was happening. His eyes rolled back, and he started making choking sounds. "Angel!" I dropped to my knees beside him, but I was too scared to look away from the creature. The animal's mind is too simple. It cannot process our presence. This happens sometimes. I felt anger rise up in me. "You're hurting him." We do not wish to cause harm, but contact with us is difficult for most minds. I looked down at Angel. He was still breathing, but barely. Foam was coming from his mouth. "Make it stop." We cannot. His mind has seen too much. This is why we need you. Need me for what? The creature's red eyes got brighter. In them, I saw more visions. Not just the bridge collapse, but other disasters. Plane crashes, building fires, earthquakes, wars. So many terrible things that I had to close my eyes. Your species stands at a crossroads. You can learn to prevent these disasters, or you can perish from them. We have been sent to find those who can bridge the gap. Bridge what gap? Between what is and what could be. Between now and later. You have the gift. You can see what is coming and change it. I thought about Robert, about how I saw his death but couldn't save him. I tried before, it didn't work. You were not ready then. You are ready now. The creature extended one long arm toward me. Its hand had too many fingers, and they were longer than human fingers. Should be. But when it reached out, I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt connected. Images flooded my mind, not just disasters, but good things too. Children who would grow up if certain accidents were prevented. Families who would stay together if certain events were stopped. Cities that would thrive if certain warnings were heeded. We cannot interfere directly. We can only observe and guide, but you, your kind, can act, can change, can choose. I looked down at Angel again. He had stopped convulsing, but his breathing was shallow and weak. Will he be okay? His purpose was to bring you here, to keep you safe until this moment. He has served well. Don't talk about him like he's already dead. Not dead, changed, as you will be changed. What do you mean? If you accept this gift, this responsibility, you will no longer be entirely human. You will see all times, all possibilities. You will prevent disasters, but the weight of that knowledge will transform you. I thought about the bridge, about all those people who would die in a month if someone didn't warn them. And if I don't accept, then we continue searching, and the people on the bridge die, and many others after them. Angel whimpered softly. His eyes opened and looked at me. Even though he couldn't speak, I could see what he was trying to tell me. He was asking me to be brave, to do what needed to be done. The creature's hand was still extended toward me. If I touch you, what happens? You will see everything, know everything, and you will have the power to change what you see. But you will also carry the burden of knowing which futures are possible and which are not. I looked at Angel one more time. He had been Robert's dog, trained to help people with broken minds. Now, he was asking me to help people with broken futures. I reached out my hand toward the creature. Choose wisely, it said. This cannot be undone. My fingers were an inch away from its strange, long hand. All I had to do was touch it, and everything would change. Behind me, Angel made a soft sound that might have been approval. I closed my eyes and reached forward. The moment my finger touched the creature's hand, the world exploded inside my head. It wasn't painful exactly. It was like someone had turned on 1,000 televisions in my brain, all showing different channels at the same time. I saw everything, every possible future, every disaster that could happen, every life that could be saved or lost. I saw the bridge collapse over and over again, but now I could see the details. I knew exactly when it would happen. I knew how many people would be on it. I knew their names, their faces, their families waiting at home. But I also saw how to stop it. I saw myself making phone calls, writing letters, talking to engineers and government officials, warning them about the bridge's weak spots, telling them to close it for repairs before December 15th. In some futures, they listened to me. In others, they didn't. The creature's voice filled my mind. You see now, this is the burden and the gift. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. The visions were too strong. I saw plane crashes that wouldn't happen if pilots got warnings about bad weather. I saw building fires that could be prevented if someone checked the wiring. I saw car accidents that would never occur if people left their houses 5 minutes later. I could save so many people, but I could also see the cost. In every vision where I prevented a disaster, I was a little less human, a little more distant, a little more alone. Saving people meant losing pieces of myself. This is why we chose you, the creature continued. Your heart is strong enough to bear this weight. Your mind is flexible enough to see multiple futures at once. I thought about Robert, about how I failed to save him because I didn't believe in my gift. Will I be able to save everyone? No, some futures are fixed. Some disasters must happen for other good things to follow. You will learn to see the difference, but the choice will always be yours. The visions started to slow down. I could think more clearly. I looked down at Angel, who was still lying. on the ground, but breathing better now. What about him? He will recover, but he will never be the same. He has seen what you have seen. He will help you in your new role. And if I want to go back, if I decide this is too much, there is no going back. Once you accept this gift, you exist in all times simultaneously. You will always know what is coming. You will always carry the responsibility of choice. I thought about my grandmother, locked away in a hospital because she tried to warn people about Pearl Harbor. I thought about my mother, who stopped talking about her visions after my father died. I thought about myself, carrying Robert's letters but never reading them because the pain was too great. Will I go crazy like my grandmother? Your grandmother was not crazy. She was simply born too early. The world was not ready for her warnings, but now things are different. Now there are others like you, others who have accepted this burden. Others? Yes. Around the world we have found many. They work quietly, preventing disasters, saving lives. You will not be alone. The thought of that gave me some comfort. Maybe I wouldn't end up in a hospital after all. But then I saw something in the visions that made my blood run cold. I saw myself 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years. With each passing year, I looked less human. My eyes became distant. My smile disappeared. I could see everything that was coming, but I couldn't feel joy anymore. I could save lives, but I couldn't live my own life. This is the price, the creature said, reading my thoughts. To see all possibilities, you must step outside of normal time. To save humanity, you must become something more and less than human. I looked at Angel again. He was trying to sit up now, looking at me with trust in his eyes. He believed I would make the right choice, even if it cost me everything. I thought about those people on the bridge. Mothers and fathers going home to their families, children riding with their parents, workers heading home after a long day. They had no idea what was coming. They were just living their normal lives, trusting that the bridge would hold. If I don't do this, they'll die. Yes. All of them. 46 people will die. 73 will be injured. Many families will be destroyed. I closed my eyes and made my choice. I accept. The moment I said it, everything changed. The pain in my head became sharper, but also clearer. I could suddenly see not just the future, but the past and present too. I could see how every choice led to every outcome. I could see the threads that connected all things. My left eye went blind, but not in a bad way. Instead of seeing the world around me, it now saw the world that was coming. Future disasters played like movies in that eye, while my right eye saw the present. Angel stood up, shaking but alive. When I looked at him, I could see that he was changed too. His eyes had a depth they hadn't had before. He could see some of what I could see now. "It is done," the creature said. "You are no longer entirely human. You are a bridge between what is and what could be. Use this gift wisely." The creature started to fade, becoming transparent again. But before it disappeared completely, it gave me one last message. The bridge is only the beginning. There are many disasters coming, many chances to save lives, but remember, every choice has a cost. Choose carefully. And then it was gone. I stood there in the darkness with Angel, feeling the weight of all possible futures pressing down on me. In my blind eye, I could see myself picking up the phone tomorrow morning. I could see myself calling the bridge inspector. I could see him listening to my warning and ordering the bridge closed for emergency repairs. I could see 46 people who would live because I had given up my humanity to save them. Angel walked over and put his head against my leg. He understood. We both understood that our old lives were over. We were something else now, something that existed between worlds, between times, between human and something more. I reached into my pocket and pulled out Robert's letters. For the first time since he died, I could touch them without seeing his death. Instead, I saw something else. I saw him in a place beyond time, smiling at me, proud of what I had become. "I understand now," I whispered to his memory. "I couldn't save you because I was meant to save them." Angel whined softly, not in pain this time, but in agreement. Together, we walked away from the TNT area. We had work to do, phone calls to make, lives to save, disasters to prevent. But as we walked, I felt the last pieces of my humanity slipping away. Soon, I would remember facts, but not feelings. I would save lives, but forget what it felt like to live. That was the price of being a prophet. That was the burden I had chosen to carry. Behind us, the bunkers fell silent. The humming stopped. The red lights faded from the sky. The transformation was complete. And somewhere in the future, 46 people would go home to their families on December 15th, never knowing that their lives had been saved by a woman who had given up her own humanity to preserve theirs. That was enough. It had to be enough, because there was no going back now. My name is Michael Thompson, and I'm a park ranger in the Olympic National Forest in Washington. I'm 34 years old, and I used to be a Marine sniper before I came here. But that's a story I don't like to tell very often. This morning started like any other. I was walking through the forest, watching the mist rise up from the ground, like ghosts dancing between the huge Douglas fir trees. These trees are so tall and old, they make you feel like you're walking through a giant church. The rain was falling softly on the leaves above my head, making a gentle tapping sound that usually helps me feel calm. I love this forest. It's the only place where I can forget about the bad things that happened to me. Out here, surrounded by trees that have been alive for hundreds of years, I feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself, something that was here long before people came along. As I walked down the trail, I heard the birds singing their morning songs. A winter wren was chirping nearby, and I could hear a thrush calling from somewhere in the distance. These sounds make me feel peaceful, like everything is normal and safe. Then I saw a little black bear cub peeking at me from behind a fallen tree. It was so cute, just watching me with its curious little eyes. But then I heard its mother calling for it, and the cub ran away as fast as it could. Bears don't usually bother me, but something about the way the mother called sounded worried. That's when I noticed the forest was getting quiet. Too quiet. The birds stopped singing. Even the sound of raindrops hitting the leaves seemed to fade away. In my line of work, sudden silence like this is never a good sign. I carry a radio with me everywhere I go, and I tried to call back to the ranger station, but all I got was static. Then something really weird happened. The radio started making sounds, but it wasn't the station calling back. It was my own voice saying numbers and directions like I used to do when I was a sniper in the Marines. Target at 2 o'clock, range 300 meters, wind from the east. But I wasn't saying those words. A blue jay landed on a branch near me. It looked at me sideways, the way birds do, and then flew away. But as it flew, it made a sound that didn't sound like a bird at all. It sounded like a child screaming. The fog started rolling in thick and heavy. This happened sometimes near the coast, but this fog was different. As I looked into it, I could swear I saw flashes of light like gunfire in the distance. But that was impossible. There was no one else out here, and hunting season was months away. I keep walking, but something's wrong with the trail. The path I've walked 100 times before looks different. There are fallen trees blocking the way, but they're not lying there naturally. They're arranged in patterns, like someone put them there on purpose. The way they're positioned reminds me of barriers we used to build in the military. I looked down at my watch to check the time, and my blood went cold. The hands had stopped. moving. They were stuck at 6:22 a.m. That's the exact time when my squad died in Beirut. I was the only one who lived because I was sick that day and couldn't go on the mission with them. The air started to taste strange, like metal and gunpowder. I know that taste. It's the taste of a battlefield after the shooting stops. I carried dog tags in my pocket. Not just mine, but all 12 tags from my squad. The guys who died while I was lying in bed with food poisoning. Every morning I whisper their names so I won't forget them. Rodriguez, Martinez, Jackson, Williams. All of them. My dog Apache was with me. He's a German shepherd, trained to find explosives. He's been my partner for 3 years now, and he's saved my life more times than I can count. But today, he was acting strange. He kept whimpering and looking around like he could see something I couldn't. Whenever there's thunder, he gets scared, because it reminds him of the sound of bombs exploding. But there was no thunder today. I pulled out my grandfather's compass. He carried it in World War II, and it's never let me down. But when I looked at it, the needle wasn't pointing north. Instead, it was pointing towards something else, something I couldn't see. I haven't slept well in years, not since Beirut. When you're the only one who survives when everyone else dies, sleep doesn't come easy. I keep having the same dream over and over. My squad is standing in a line, all of them looking at me, asking me why I get to keep breathing when they're buried in the ground. Today felt different, though. It felt like that morning in Beirut, right before everything went wrong. There was this feeling in the air, like electricity before a storm. Something was coming, and I didn't know what it was. But I know one thing for sure. After all these years of being alone, something in this forest was finally hunting me back. I kept walking deeper into the forest, following what was left of the trail. Apache stayed close to my side, but I could tell he was nervous. His ears were up, listening for sounds I couldn't hear. Every few steps, he would stop and look over his shoulder like something was following us. After about an hour, I smelled something that made me stop dead in my tracks. Smoke, but not the good kind from a campfire. This was the sharp, bitter smell of burned plastic and metal. I followed the smell until I found what was left of a research camp. At least, I think, that's what it used to be. There were 3 tents that had been torn apart, and scientific equipment scattered everywhere. But this wasn't just destroyed. Someone had taken the pieces and put them back together in weird ways. The metal poles from the tents were bent into shapes that hurt to look at. They formed triangles and squares that didn't make sense, like someone was trying to build something but didn't know how. Computer parts were hanging from tree branches like Christmas decorations. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. I picked up a clipboard that was lying on the ground. The papers were wet from the rain, but I could still read some of it. It was a research report about animal behavior in the forest. The last entry was dated 3 days ago. It said, Day 12, strange electromagnetic readings continue. Animals avoiding this area completely. Team leader Dr. Sarah Chen reporting unusual sounds at night. Will investigate further tomorrow. There was no tomorrow for Dr. Chen and her team. I tried my radio again. Still nothing but static. Then I heard something that made my skin crawl. Through the static I could hear voices. They were faint, but they sounded like people calling for help. Hello? Can anyone hear us? We're lost. Please, help us. But the voices were coming from my radio, not from anywhere in the forest. Apache started whimpering. Not the scared whimper he makes during thunderstorms, but something different. Something that told me we needed to leave this place right now. That's when I saw the handprints. They were pressed into the bark of a big Douglas fir tree, about 30 feet up from the ground. Each finger was clearly marked in the living wood, like someone had grabbed the tree and squeezed so hard they left permanent marks. But the hands were huge, much bigger than any human hand. I'm 6 feet tall, and I had to bend my neck all the way back just to see where the handprints started. Whatever made those marks was at least 9 feet tall, maybe more. The air started to smell strange. It was musky, like wet dog, but mixed with something else. Something that reminded me of the smell right before lightning strikes. My nose started to tingle, and the hair on my arms stood up. I looked around and noticed something that made my blood run cold. The trees weren't just knocked down randomly. They were arranged in a pattern, like walls and barriers. They formed pathways that led in specific directions, channeling anyone who walked through them toward certain spots. It looked exactly like the killing zones we used to set up in these Marines. Someone or something was herding people through this forest like sheep. My compass was spinning like crazy now. The needle would point one way, then swing around to point somewhere else. But every few seconds it would stop and point to the same coordinates. I knew those numbers. They were burned into my memory forever. Those were the exact coordinates where my squad died in Beirut. That's impossible. Beirut is on the other side of the world. There's no way my compass could be pointing. They're from here. But the numbers were right there on the dial, clear as day. A low rumble started somewhere in the distance. It was so deep, I felt it in my chest more than I heard it with my ears. It went on for about 10 seconds, then stopped. Then it started again. As I listened closer, I realized it wasn't random. It was a pattern. Dots and dashes. Morse code. Beirut. Over and over again. Apache was pressed against my leg now, trembling. He was looking up at the trees, watching something move through the branches. I followed his gaze, but couldn't see anything except leaves and shadows. Then my watch stopped working. The second hand just froze. A few minutes later, my flashlight started flickering and went dead. Even though I had put fresh batteries in it that morning, I checked my phone. No signal, which was normal out here. But something weird was happening to the screen. It kept showing the time wrong. Instead of the current time, it showed 6:22 a.m. over and over again. The same time my squad died. I was starting to get scared. Really scared. In the Marines, they teach you to trust your instincts. And every instinct I had was screaming at me to get out of these woods as fast as I could. But when I turned to head back the way I came, I saw something that stopped me cold. There were boot prints in the mud. My boot prints. But they were facing the wrong direction. They led deeper into the forest, toward a thick cluster of trees that I knew I hadn't walked to yet. Someone was using my own footprints to lead me into a trap. I stood there staring at those boot prints for a long time. My hands were shaking and I couldn't make them stop. In all my years as a Marine and as a park ranger, I'd never seen anything like this. Apache was pulling on his leash now, trying to get me to follow him back down the trail. But something told me it was too late to run. Whatever was out here had been watching me for a while. It knew where I was going before I did. I pulled out my rifle. It's an old hunting rifle, nothing fancy, but I'm a good shot. I've always been a good shot. That's why they made me a sniper in the Marines. But as I held the gun, I realized something that scared me more than anything else. I felt like I was being watched through a scope, like someone else had their crosshairs on me right now. I turned in a slow circle, scanning the trees. Nothing, just shadows and mist. But the feeling didn't go away. Somewhere out there, something was aiming at me. That's when I saw it move. It was between two big trees about 100 yards away. At first, I thought it was just a shadow. But shadows don't walk on two legs. This thing was huge, at least 9 feet tall, and it moved like it was trying not to be seen. The strangest part was that I could barely see it. It was like looking at something through water or through heat waves rising off hot pavement. The Z shape was there, but it kept fading in and out like it was part of the forest itself. I raised my rifle and looked through the scope. Nothing. Whatever it was had disappeared again. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded small in the big forest. "Is someone there?" The answer came from right behind me. "Thompson, 12 o'clock. Aye, take the shot." I spun around so fast I almost fell over. It was Rodriguez's voice. Sergeant Rodriguez, who died with the rest of my squad in Beirut. But that was impossible. Rodriguez had been dead for years. Apache started barking, but he wasn't barking at where the voice came from. He was barking at something I couldn't see, something moving through the trees to our left. Target acquired 200 meters, wind from the southwest. This time it was Martinez speaking. Another dead man's voice, giving me shooting instructions like we were back in combat. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Dead people don't talk to you in the middle of the forest. The thing moved again. This time I saw it clearly for just a second. It was covered in dark, shaggy hair, like a bear standing on its back legs. But it was too tall to be a bear, and it moved too smart. It ducked behind trees and used the shadows to hide itself. It moved like a soldier. Then it started using hand signals. I'm not kidding. This thing, whatever it was, made the same hand signals we used in the Marines. It pointed to its eyes, then pointed at me. I see you. Then it made a cutting motion across its throat. My radio crackled to life again. This time it was my own voice coming through the speaker. Apache 6, this is Sierra 7. Enemy in sight, requesting permission to engage. But I wasn't saying those words. My mouth wasn't even moving. I tried to set up a defensive position behind a fallen log, just like they taught us in basic training. But every time I moved, the thing seemed to know where I was going. When I went left, it moved to cut me off. When I went right, it was already there, waiting. It was like playing chess with someone who could see all your moves before you made them. Apache was acting stranger and stranger. He would sit when I told him to stay, but then he would get up and walk toward the trees when I heard my own voice calling him. My own voice, but it wasn't coming from me. Apache, come here, boy. Good dog, come to daddy. The dog looked confused. He would look at me, then look toward the voice, then back at me. He couldn't tell which one was real. That's when I realized something horrible. This thing wasn't just big and invisible, it was smart, really smart. It had been listening to me and learning from me. It knew my voice, my commands, even my military training, and it was using everything against me. I tried to shoot it when it moved between two trees. I had a clear shot for maybe 2 seconds, but when I pulled the trigger, nothing happened. The bullet seemed to just disappear into thin air, like it hit some kind of invisible wall. The creature made a sound then, not a roar like you'd expect from a wild animal. It was laughing, a deep, rumbling laugh that sounded like it was coming from everywhere at once. Then the electromagnetic pulses started. My rifle scope went dead first, then my compass started spinning like crazy. The metal parts of my gear started getting hot, so hot I had to drop my rifle because I couldn't hold it anymore. But the worst part was what it did to me. Every time there was a pulse, my muscles would jerk and twitch like I was being shocked. I couldn't control my own body. My hands would move without me telling them to, and my legs would take steps in directions I didn't want to go. Williams, Jackson, Rodriguez, I heard my own voice saying, but I wasn't talking. Sound off. Give me a head count. These were my squad members' names, the guys who died while I lived. But why was I calling their names? I tried to stop talking, but the words kept coming out of my mouth. The creature stepped out from behind a tree, and for the first time I got a good look at it. It was massive, covered in dark brown hair that seemed to bend the light around it. Its eyes were human-like, but filled with an intelligence that made my skin crawl. But the worst part was its face. Sometimes, just for a second, it would look like Rodriguez. Then it would change and look like Martinez. Then Williams. It was wearing the faces of my dead friends. We've been waiting for you, Thompson, it said. In Rodriguez's voice, you're the last one. Time to join the squad. That's when I knew I had to get to higher ground. There was an old fire lookout tower about 2 miles from here. If I could reach it, I might have a chance. Height advantage, clear sight lines, and maybe the metal structure would protect me from those electromagnetic pulses. I grabbed Apache's leash and started running. Behind me I could hear the creature following, but it wasn't trying to catch me, it was herding me, just like those fallen trees had been herding people through the forest. It wanted me to go to the tower. It was leading me exactly where it wanted me to go. I ran through the forest like my life depended on it, because it did. Apache was right beside me, his tongue hanging out as we crashed through the underbrush. Behind us, I could hear heavy footsteps. Not running, just walking. The thing wasn't in a hurry, it knew where I was going. The trail to the fire tower was steep and rocky. My lungs were burning, and my legs felt like rubber. I'm in good shape, but I'm not 20 anymore. Every step was getting harder. About halfway up the mountain, I had to stop to catch my breath. I leaned against a tree and looked back down the trail. I couldn't see the creature, but I knew it was there, watching, waiting. That's when I noticed something wrong with Apache. My dog was sitting perfectly still, staring at me with his head tilted to one side. His eyes looked different, glassy, like he was sleepwalking. "Apache," I said, "come here, boy." He didn't move. He just kept staring at me with those strange, empty eyes. Then he spoke, not barked, spoke in my own voice. "You can't run forever, Thompson. We're all here waiting for you." I stumbled backward so fast I almost fell off the trail. Dogs don't talk. That's impossible. But I heard it with my own ears. Apache stood up and started walking toward me, but something was wrong with the way he moved. His legs were stiff, like a puppet being controlled by strings, and he was still talking in my voice. "Rodriguez is here, Martinez is here, Williams, Jackson, Chen, we're all here. And soon you'll be here too." I wanted to cry. Apache had been my best friend for 3 years. He'd saved my life more times than I could count. But looking at him now, I realized the truth that I didn't want to accept. Apache had been dead for hours, maybe since we first entered the deep forest. The thing had been moving his body like a toy, making me think he was still alive. "I'm sorry, boy," I whispered, and I kept running up the trail. The electromagnetic pulses were getting stronger. Every few minutes, my muscles would jerk and twitch, making me stumble. My inner ear felt weird, like when you have a bad cold and can't balance properly. The world kept tilting to one side. I could see the fire tower now, rising above the trees, like a skeleton made of metal beams. It was old and rusty, but it was still standing, 50 feet high, with a small cabin at the top and stairs zigzagging up the sides. As I got closer, the memories started flooding back. Not my memories, someone else's memories. I remembered being in a laboratory, men in white coats sticking needles in my arms, electricity shooting through my body, screaming until my throat bled. But these weren't my memories. They belonged to someone else. Someone who had been experimented on a long, long time ago. The name came to me like a whisper. Corporal James Whitman. I started climbing the tower stairs. Each step sent vibrations through the metal structure, and the whole thing swayed in the wind. About halfway up, I looked down and saw the creature standing at the bottom. It wasn't trying to hide anymore. It just stood there, looking up at me with those human eyes. And I could see its face clearly now. It was a man. Or it used to be a man. The hair and the size were wrong, but underneath all that, it was definitely human. And it was wearing a military uniform, an old one from maybe the 1940s. "Hello, Thompson," it called up to me. Its voice was normal now, not trying to sound like my dead friends. "My name is James Whitman. I've been waiting a long time to meet you." "What do you want?" I shouted down. "I want to complete my mission," he said. "I was supposed to come home from the war, but they did things to me, changed me, made me into something else. Now I collect soldiers, I bring them home." I reached the top of the tower and looked around the small cabin. It was full of old radio equipment, most of it broken. But some pieces were still working, crackling with static and strange voices. That's when I saw them. Bodies, dozens of bodies, sitting around the cabin like they were having a meeting. All of them were soldiers from different wars: World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq. They were wearing their uniforms, but their faces were wrong, empty. Their eyes stared at nothing. And sitting right in front of me in a circle were Rodriguez, Martinez, Williams, and the rest of my squad. They turned to look at me as I entered the cabin. Their mouths moved, but no sound came out. They were trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear them. "Welcome home, soldier," Whitman's voice said from right behind me. I spun around, but he wasn't there. The voice was coming from the radio equipment. "You're the last one, Thompson. The last one from your squad. When you join us, you'll all be together again, just like you wanted." The electromagnetic pulse hit me like a punch in the chest. My heart stopped beating for a second, then started again with a painful thump. Then it stopped again. I tried to grab the radio to call for help, but my hands wouldn't work right. The electricity was running through my whole body now, and I could feel my heart starting to give up. "Don't fight it," Whitman's voice said gently. "It doesn't hurt much, and when it's over, you'll be with your friends again." I looked at my squad, sitting there in their circle. Rodriguez raised his hand and pointed to an empty chair next to him. My chair. They'd been saving it for me. My heart stopped one more time, and this time it didn't start again. But I didn't die. Not exactly. Instead, something strange happened. My body fell to the floor, but I was still there. I could see everything, hear everything, but I was different now. I was part of the radio equipment, part of the electromagnetic field that filled the cabin. And I could finally hear what my squad had been trying to tell me. "Run," Rodriguez was saying. "Don't let him add you to the collection. Run while you still can." But it was too late. I was already part of it. Part of Whitman's collection of soldiers who never made it home. And the worst part was, I could feel my memories and skills becoming part of him. My sniper training, my knowledge of tactics, my experience. He was taking all of it and making it his own. Now he was stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than ever before. Being dead is not what I expected. I can see everything that's happening, but I can't touch anything. I can hear sounds, but they come through radio waves instead of my ears. I'm part of the electrical field that fills this tower, and I can feel all the other soldiers who are trapped here with me. Rodriguez is trying to talk to me. His voice comes through the static like a whisper. "Thompson, you need to understand. What happened to us? What happened to Whitman?" Slowly, the memories start coming. Not my memories, but Whitman's. I can see his whole story now, like watching a movie in my head. James Whitman was a regular soldier in World War II. He was 22 years old when they picked him for a special program. The army told him they were trying to make soldiers stronger and faster. They told him he'd be helping his country win the war. They lied. The experiments were horrible. They shot electricity through his body for hours at a time. They gave him drugs that made him grow bigger and stronger, but also changed his mind. They were trying to make him invisible, to bend light around his body so enemy soldiers couldn't see him. It worked, but it also drove him crazy. When the war ended, Whitman escaped from the laboratory, but he wasn't human anymore. The electricity had changed something deep inside him. He could control electromagnetic fields, make machines stop working, even stop people's hearts. But the worst part was that he was lonely. All the other soldiers had gone home to their families. Whitman couldn't go home. He was too different, too dangerous, so he decided to bring other soldiers to keep him company. For almost 80 years, he's been collecting us. Every time a soldier dies alone or feels guilty about surviving when others didn't, Whitman finds them. He adds them to his collection, and now I'm part of it too. I can feel my sniper skills becoming part of Whitman's abilities. My knowledge of modern weapons, my training in tactics, it's all flowing into him like water. He's learning everything. I know, and that makes him more dangerous than he's ever been. Martinez's voice comes through the radio. Static. We've been trying to warn people for years, but every time we get close to breaking free, Whitman pulls us back. How many of us are there? I ask, though I'm not sure how I'm talking without a mouth. Hundreds, Williams answers. Soldiers from every war since 1945, all of us trapped here, all of us part of his electromagnetic field. I try to move, to break free from whatever's holding me here, but it's like being stuck in thick mud. The more I struggle, the deeper I sink. That's when I hear the voices, real voices, coming from down the mountain, people calling out, looking for something. Hello? Is anyone up there? We're with the rescue team. My heart would be pounding if I still had one. There are people coming, living people who don't know what they're walking into. Whitman's voice rumbles through the tower like thunder. New recruits, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. Thompson, your skills will be very useful for this. Before I can stop myself, I feel my consciousness being pulled into the radio equipment. Whitman is making me use my voice to talk to the rescue team. This is Park Ranger Michael Thompson, I hear myself saying into the radio. I'm at the fire tower. I need immediate assistance. Officer down. Repeat, officer down. No! I scream, but only the other dead soldiers can hear me. Don't come up here! It's a trap! But my voice keeps talking to the rescue team, giving them directions, telling them exactly how to find the tower. Whitman is using my knowledge of the forest and my authority as a park ranger to lead them right into his trap. I can see them now through the electromagnetic field that covers the whole mountain. 4 rescue workers climbing up the trail with their medical equipment and radios. They have no idea what's waiting for them. Rodriguez's voice cuts through my panic. Thompson, listen to me. We can fight this, all of us together. We just need to coordinate our efforts. How? I ask. Every time Whitman uses one of us to communicate with the living, he has to let his guard down a little. If we all push back at the same time, we might be able to warn them. The rescue team is getting closer. I can hear their boots on the metal. Stairs of the tower. Williams speaks up. On my count, everyone push as hard as you can. Try to break through his control. 3, 2, 1, now! All of us, every dead soldier in Whitman's collection, pushed against his control at the same time. For just a second, I felt free. My voice was my own again. Don't come up here, I screamed into the radio. It's not safe. The ranger is dead. Turn around and run. But Whitman's control slammed back down on us like a hammer, and now he was angry. You will not interfere, his voice boomed through the tower. These soldiers will join us, just like all the others. The rescue team had heard my warning, but they thought I was just panicked or hurt. They kept climbing. We're almost there, Ranger Thompson, one of them called out. Just hold on. I could feel Whitman preparing to use my sniper skills to pick them off one by one as they reached the top of the tower. He was going to make me help him kill innocent people. But then something unexpected happened. The youngest rescue worker, a woman who couldn't have been more than 25, stopped at the bottom of the tower. She was looking at something on the ground. Hey guys, she called to her team. There's a dead dog down here. German Shepherd. Looks like it's been dead for hours. Apache. They found Apache's body. That's weird, another rescue worker said. Thompson's report said his dog was fine. The team leader stopped climbing. Something's not right here. Thompson, if you can hear me, we need you to come down to us. We're not coming up. Whitman's rage filled the electromagnetic field like a storm. He sent a massive pulse down the tower, trying to stop their radios and force them to climb up. But something went wrong. The pulse was too strong. Instead of just stopping their equipment, it overloaded the old radio equipment in the tower. Sparks flew everywhere, and for a moment all of us dead soldiers could feel our connection to Whitman weaken. Run! I screamed with my real voice, not through the radio. Get out of here now. The rescue team heard me. They looked up at the tower, saw the sparks and smoke, and ran back down the mountain as fast as they could. Whitman's roar of anger shook the whole tower. He'd been so close to adding 4 more soldiers to his collection, and we'd ruined it. But I knew this wasn't over. It would never be over. Whitman would repair his equipment, and he'd try again, and again, and again. Because that's what he does. He collects soldiers who can't find their way home. And now, with my skills added to his, he's more dangerous than ever. Sometimes late at night, rescue teams in these mountains get radio calls from Park Ranger Michael Thompson. They hear my voice giving them coordinates, asking for help, telling them exactly where to find me. If you ever hear that call, please, don't come looking for me. Turn around and run, because I'm not asking for help anymore. I'm bait.